We're on a well. I don't know if anybody else is, but our well is like 300 foot deep. Man, you get down there and you get in that well, and I mean that water comes up. It is cold and it is good. I had an actual filter, on it to catch all the stuff that was coming up at one time, and finally I just took it off because after whatever 4 years, I had the same filter in. It was just crystal clean. I didn't have one of those carbonized, whatever. This was just a mineral filter and a sand sediment filter, but it was just as clean as it could be. The water that we were getting was just excellent water. We were getting, 19 gallons a minute. So, man, we had an abundant supply of this great water. It was awesome compared to our other house where when we had a well dug on it, I think we were getting 4 gallons a minute, and it was like you could turn the water on. It wouldn't be too much longer, the water pressure would just start dropping. There wasn't enough there to keep it going. Well, I got news for you. If you get a hold of God's water, you don't have to worry about it ever stopping. You don't have to worry about low flow. You don't have to worry about it being all tanked up with chemicals or whatever else, because it's going to be pure and it's going to be a real good thing. We're all bound by water, just in case you're wondering. You know what the craziest thing about this old world is? What is it? 70%? 70% of this great world that we live on is water. But the majority of it can't even be drank. You can go out there and swim around in it if you're not afraid of the whales and the sharks, but you can't drink it. But we have to have that water for just about everything we do in life. Pretty much what you wash your clothes in, water. What you gonna make your tea with, water. You can use whatever else. You can have unsweet tea, and we'll pray for you if you do. I don't know why you'd want it, but you can have, but you still got to have the water. You even got to have water in your vehicle to keep it cool and to keep it from overheating. You got to have water for things. And so therefore you've got to have a source to get your water. And the water is a blessing. And in order to get it, sometimes you have to seek after and do things that you might not normally do to get that blessing, in order to get that water. In the book of Genesis, chapter 26, it says, "And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went into Abimelech, the king of the Philistines, unto Gerar. And the Lord appeared to him and said, Go not down into Egypt, dwell in the land which I shall tell thee of. Sojourn into this land, and I will be with thee, and will bless thee, for unto thee and to thy seed I will give all these countries, and I will perform the oath which I swear unto Abraham thy father. And I will make thy seed to multiply as the stars of heaven, and will give unto thy seed all these countries, and in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Because that Abraham obeyed my voice, and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." Verse 6 says, "And Isaac dwelt in Gerar." So during this famine, there came up a time where Isaac was wanting to go somewhere else. The famine had hit the land, and everything was being all brought down and drove through. No water. Of course, there's no water. There's no crops. How are you going to keep your stock, all your animals? How are you going to keep them watered? So you've got to move around. So he was out looking for a place that he could receive his blessings. And it said the Lord come to him and told him not to go to one place, but to go to another. And so Isaac, being one that trusted and believed in God, decided that he would go where God had told him to go. So see right off the bat, Isaac is trusting and believing in God. Lots of times we will look upon ourselves. And of course, he's wanting to go to Egypt. You look at Egypt, you have the great rivers that's coming through there. We can look at things and we can say, but I can see for myself, if I can go to this area, if I can do this thing, then I know I can see with my own eyes that there is enough there to give thee the supply that I need. Or I can go over here to this hospital. I can go to this doctor. I can go to this car lot. I can go wherever because I know what they have in stock there. I know what kind of doctors they have. I can go to this grocery store. I know the prices. And we take it upon ourselves to go by what we know and what we think might be good for us. And sometimes, even though it might be what we think is the best and what we can see that we need, it's not what God's got in store for us. Now Isaac listened. He listened to God, and so he did not go to where would be the best place to go. But instead it says he dwelt where God had told him to dwell. Then Isaac, verse 12, sowed in that land and received in the same year 100-fold. And the Lord blessed him, and the man waxed great and went forward and grew until it became very great. For he had possession of flocks, possession of herds, and great store of servants, and the Philistines envied him. Imagine that. He goes into a land, he's listening, he's obeying God, and what happens? The Bible said within the first year, he was blessed with over 100-fold of what he had had. In other words, because he listened and he trusted in God, God had blessed him. If he had one sheep, well, now he had 101. He got 100 times more than everything that his hand touched. It said multiplied by 100. Not only his herd, but his crops. Not only his crops, but the trees, the produce, everything that he put his hand to prospered because he was obedient to God. Now, here he is living in the land of the Philistines. Of course, we all know this ends up being one of, or it still already was, the great enemies of God and his people. And what does it say happened? It said they began to get very jealous. When Satan starts looking at you and he sees that you're trusting and that you're believing in God and that you're doing what God is telling you to do, guess what's going to happen? As God starts to bless, Satan is going to start to get mad. He's going to start to tug and to pull. He's going to try to trip you up. He's going to try to do everything he can to make you fall, to make you quit trusting in God. He's going to try to tear you down because he can't stand it that God is blessing you. You know why he can't stand it? Because at one time he was in heaven with him. He had tasted of the goodness of God. He had tasted of what heaven was like. He had seen what heaven was going to be like. And forever he knew he could be there until he let his own ego and his vanity get in the way and he was kicked out. He knew what he was missing. He knew how God could bless, and therefore it just made him all the more mad. All he could think of was, God is blessing them like I used to get blessed. God has given them a taste of the stuff that I used to get a taste of. And you can get somebody getting that kind of jealous, and boy, there's no telling what they're going to do to you. So here's Isaac. He's sitting there. He's being blessed of God over and over and over. And verse 15 says, for all the wells which his father's servants had digged in those days of Abraham his father, the Philistines had stopped them and filled them with the earth. Let's drop on down. Verse 16, and Abimelech said unto Isaac, go from us, for thou art much mightier than we are. Here comes the enemies again. Isaac gets ready to start looking around, and all of a sudden the wells have been filled up. All the wells that his father dug, they had done filled up. And now telling him, son, you need to leave. You need to get away from here. I can't stand you anymore. I'm seeing you're being blessed. It makes me mad. You need to go. And it says, so they filled in the wells to which he was getting his water from, and they run him off. You know that's what Satan's going to try to do to you? Every time God starts blessing, Satan's going to try to find the supply line and get in between there and cut off your blessing. And then he's going to start talking to you. It's time for you to go. He's going to start threatening you. He's going to start trying to scare you. He's going to start trying to warn you. He's going to start reminding you of what you used to do. He's going to try to tell you that you ain't worthy. Oh, that what you've done, you'll never be able to get back with God. He's going to tell you everything that he can, try to steal everything he can from you, and leave you one more time barren, leaving you without a source. Right. And Isaac said, okay. He says, we're going to move on down the road a little bit. So Isaac departed, verse 17, and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar, and he dwelt there. Listen to verse 18. And Isaac digged again. I like that language. That kind of sounds that way. Y'all don't talk about when I say a wrong word, because Isaac digged again. He didn't dig it back up. He hadn't dug it. He digged it again. And the wells of water which had digged in the day of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them after the death of Abraham, and he called the names after their names by which his father had called them. Now think about this. The day that they dug my well, 300 foot deep, it took them, I don't know, half a day to do it. They come in here with this huge rig, set it up, and just started drilling and through the ground. Next thing you know, here comes the water. A couple hours later. They didn't have drilling rigs back in those days. And usually the wells are 4 or 5 foot around in a circle. And usually you had to go 60 to 70 foot deep. Just imagine with your little bucket or with a little shovel having to dig this out day after day after day. And not only did you have to dig it out, but you had to keep it kind of clean around the walls. You had to know what you was doing to get down to the source of the water. So here he goes, day after day after day. They say the 5 foot was usually the easiest because that's all you lose sand. But after that, I mean, it could have took them months to dig these wells. So here's Isaac, digging new wells. He's sitting there having his men take care of the crop, take care of the animals, but also having to dig. Verse 19. And Isaac's servants digged in the valley and found the well of springing water. And the herdsmen of Gerar did strive with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, the water is ours. And he called the name of the well Esek, because they strove with him. So Isaac picked up his camp and moved 1 or 2 miles closer to the valley and started over again. In other words, he moves out. But as he moved out, guess who moved with him? God. And Isaac starts digging and digging again. Next thing you know, boom! Boy, he hits water. And it says the water was just a springing. But here he is, still in the land of his enemy. Still in the land of those around him that want to squish him down. Still in the land of those around here that's an enemy of God and his people. And they come and they start fighting with them again. Oh no, this ain't your blessing. This is our blessing. This is our well. This was our property long before it was yours. This is us. Thank you so much for helping us get it. But we're either going to share it with you or we're going to take it from you. So what does Isaac do? Man, he gets up and he says, then I guess I'll just move further on down the road. And it says that they digged another well. Man. I remember that game, Dig Dug. I remember the little game, old Atari maybe for somebody ever did. Dig Dug, that little miner just dig straight on down. Here he goes again, going somewhere else. Moving on down again, digging another well. Folks, we just said this ain't easy work. This is time consuming. This is sweat making. This is back breaking. This isn't easy chores to do, to dig this well. But he digs, and he digs, and as the Bible said, he digged another well. He keeps going and going, trusting in God. Excuse me. So he picked up his camp and he moved, and they digged another well. And they strove, they fought for that one also. And he called it Sitnah. He gets another well. Next thing you know, the fight breaks out again. So here, one more time, Isaac picks up his shovels and his buckets, all the blessings that God has got, and he starts heading further on down the valley. And then Abimelech went to him from Gerar and Ahuzah and one of his friends and Philco, the chief captain of his army. And Isaac said to them, wherefore come ye to me, seeing that ye hate me, and ye keep sending me away? And they said, we saw certainly that the Lord was with thee. And we said, let there now be an oath between us, even between us and thee, and let us make a covenant with thee, that thou wilt do us no hurt. For as we've not touched thee, and as we have done unto thee nothing but good, and have sent thee away in peace, that now thou art the blessed of the Lord. It says they made a feast, and they did eat and drink. And they rose up at the bedtimes in the morning, and sware one to another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass the same day that Isaac's servants came, and told him concerning the well of which they had digged, and said unto him, that we have found water. Isaac has done digged and digged and digged and digged and digged. Him and his men there's holes all over down through this valley, because he has digged wells. He has dug them up. They have been blessed and they have flown, but yet his blessing was taken away. He would go a little bit further, and the next thing you know, he would dig, he would be blessed, and the enemy would come and take the blessing away, and Isaac would keep working further and further down. Finally, he got to the spot where God said no more. He said, Isaac, this is where you're going to stay. This is the place that I've got for you. And it says they digged another well, and the water that flowed come forth, and the Lord blessed them once more. Now at this point, not only did the water flow, and not only did the well provide, but at this time and point, God had taken over the situation, and he had opened the eyes of the enemy, and he had showed them that no matter what they did, no matter how many times that they tried to take the blessings away, that God still had his hand on Isaac. And all this time that he had been moving, all this time that he had been digging, everything was being prosperous. All of his men were growing, all of his animals were growing, everything that he touched had been blessed, and next thing you know, they were even bigger than the people, than the enemies. They were bigger than them. They were more than them. And the fear start to set in. Oh, you got to love where this story is going. All of a sudden, they realize, you know what? They're more powerful than I am. All of a sudden, he realized Isaac has been touched and blessed by God. Everything he does, God is blessing. Now, he is bigger. He is badder. He's got more. If I ain't careful, I'm going to get sent back with my tail between my legs. I'm going to get a whooping, and I'm going to be sent down the road. So it said he come in and he made a peace treaty with them, and then they left. Folks, let me tell you something. You might have been digging and digging and digging your wells. You might be starting to get the blessings, and all of a sudden, your enemy comes in, runs you off, takes you, start fighting, and next thing you know, your well is either filled in or it's taken over. Your blessings ain't where they're supposed to be. But I'm telling you this. Hang on like Isaac did. Amen. Just keep your faith in God. Don't go to a different land. Don't go to where you think it still might be better. But stay where God has told you to stay, and just keep digging. No matter what happens, just keep digging. Sometimes you have to put a little effort into it. You have to put more sweat. You have to put more blood. You have to put more time. But God is looking at what you're doing. God is seeing your trust. God is seeing your love. He is seeing what you're willing to put into the relationship. And you know what the Bible tells me? That greater is he that lives in me than he that lives in this world. Amen. So when finally things start happening and things start getting rough, all of a sudden God's going to say, just like he did with Job, God's going to say, that's enough, Satan. You can get your hands off now. You can go further back down the road. They've done this. This one is going to be for them. This is going to be the blessing that I've got for you. This is going to be the big one. This is what I've been waiting for you to get to. You've put in your time. You've put in your tithes. You've put in everything that I've asked you to, and you've stayed true. You know, sometimes the quick blessings come. It's like, oh, look what I've done. Get your little reward, and all of a sudden it's gone. You know, there's nothing else there. It was nothing but small. And the whole time you're sitting there thinking, look, I'm being blessed already. But God's like, oh no, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Keep going. Keep going. Keep looking. Keep digging. Keep working for me. We will just learn to trust in God. Learn to be obedient in His Word and never give up. Sometimes our little wells, We get everything in our life, boy. We think, oh, our life is set. Look at this, man. I got this great job. I got a great house. Got it paid off even, you know. Don't have to go fight my taxes. Hey, my taxes are good enough where I can handle them. Got a good, everything seems to be working great. My kids, man, everybody's blessed. Everything in my life is just working like it's supposed to. But all of a sudden, like that bully at the beach, you know, he comes up and starts kicking sand into your well, into your face. And next thing you know, your blessing, your great life that was once set up for you, it was once running so smooth, takes a turn. See, God's wanting to test you. He's wanting to see, are you really one of mine? When Satan comes knocking, when Satan comes kicking the sand and kicking the dirt, what are you going to do? Are you going to stay in the land that God told you to stay in? Or are you going to run and go somewhere else? See, if you can show God, if you can prove to God that you're willing to take that stand where He told you to take that stand, then guess what? He's going to take it with you. The 3 Hebrew children. Great thing about that story is this. They took a stand for God. They took it. And of course it was going to mean their lives. But God did not let them go it alone. The Bible says the king looked in and he said, hey, did we throw 3 guys in this fire? And they're like, yes, king. And he said, well, then who is that 4th one? The way I'm looking at it, it looks like the Son of God is in there with him. You see, God don't let you go through things by yourself if you will stay true to His word. Every time Satan tries to kick dirt in your face, God is there saying, I've got a bigger blessing over here. Just trust me and come walking this away. It reminds me of that old story. Y'all ever heard that old story? Old farmer. Got wells all over his property. All of a sudden one day his donkey comes up missing. He goes and looks and here's his donkey down in the well. He tries and tries and tries to get that donkey out of the well and just can't do it. So finally calls his neighbors. They're all looking. Don't know what we can do. I guess he's just stuck down there. They got to thinking, well, you know what? That old donkey is getting old anyways. That old well's been kind of dry. I guess it's time we just cover this well up and bury the donkey at the same time. So each one of them just starts getting a shovel and they start putting the dirt in. And the funny thing, the more dirt started piling up on that donkey's back, he would just shake himself off. And as the dirt started piling up, he would pick his feet up and stand upon the dirt. Next thing you know, he's working his way up. They keep putting more dirt in. He keeps stepping up higher. They put more dirt in. He shakes it off and steps up higher. Next thing you know, the well is full and the donkey is out and running. Folks, when the devil starts trying to fill your well in, just shake it off, step on up, climb up out of that well, and get yourself going knowing that God's got another and a bigger blessing further on down the road for you, and you will just keep working and just keep redigging and redig your wells. God is there to bless you.
Amen. Amen.
What do he say here? He said to stand fast. When Satan is coming trying to steal your blessings, just stand fast. Satan, you can come at me all you want because I've got more of God in me than you've got anything in you, and you can't come. The Bible tells me that no weapon that is formed against me is going to prosper. If I'm one of God's and I keep standing firm in God's word, you can't touch me.
Amen.
The next thing is to keep digging. When you get still, when you get idle, next thing you know, you're going to get cold and you're not going to be able to do the work. Once you get left behind, you know the Bible says that Jesus, love of course being an action word, it's always going. Jesus don't sit still. He's not stagnant. He's not stale. Neither is His word as it goes throughout the world. Matthew tells us in the Great Commission to go ye into all of the world. So therefore God's action, God's movement is in motion. Now, if we want to be stagnant and sit still and not keep working and keep digging, then God and His kingdom is going to be on down the road. And when we decide to get up and look for them, we're going to have a hard time finding them. Folks, you've got to keep busy in God's kingdom. You've got to keep digging. You've got to keep working. You've got to put your mind to the task and put your spirit to the test. You've got to get out there and do as God's words command you to do, to dig and dig. Sometimes you got to hang on to that angel, and you got to just hang on and say, I'm not letting you go till I get my blessing. If they put your hip out of place, it don't matter. You keep hanging on. You keep digging until God lets you strike the blessings that you need for your life.
Amen. That's right.
Too many times we give up way too easy. We come down, oh God. Oh God, I come to this altar, you know what's going on. Amen. We get up. Sometimes you got to sit down there and dig. We've been playing baseball. I tell you what, play baseball with Alex, so we played to Hiram forever. And I forgot who it was, but somehow or another, one year in the lineup, I think it might have been Dana Hartman. I don't know who it was, but this one boy got in front of me this year, and when he would get up to bat, he's one of those diggers. He'd dig out the batter's box. And then I'd have to come up to bat afterwards, and I was a little guy, so the next thing I know, I'm sitting down in the batter's box like this. I had to come up there all right off the bat. Hold on up. I had to drag half all that dirt back into the batter's box so I could even stand level. I was down in the hole. I had to fill it back up. Don't let yourself fall into somebody else's hole, into somebody else's pit. Do your thing that makes you, God's trusting you. God's trusting you to work. And if you've got to dig, redig, or fill or refill, then do what you have to do to make your life what God wants it to be. Number 3, always trust in God's provision. God had told Isaac, go this way. Don't go by looks alone. Trust in me. If Isaac would have went the other way, would he have had the blessings? No. Because he wouldn't have been in God's will. Even if for the shortest time, Isaac got down there and the rivers and everything that was there, there's no telling what would have happened. He could have been taken over. He could have been slaughtered. His animals could have been lost. They could have been diseased. But because he went where God had told him to go, because he trusted in God's provision, he was bountiful, he was blessed, and he was safe. Because he kept digging until he found the water and the blessings that God had for him. You know what Jesus tells us, and we said that last week in the book of John. He said, he said, if you could just drink of what I have. If you could just drink from the water of the rivers that flow from within me. Oh, the blessings that you will receive. It says you will never thirst again. Now, it didn't say you wasn't going to have to come back to the water and get a drink. But it said you will never thirst again. Sometimes we do it to ourselves. You know, every now and then I have to go out to the well, and I'll take the gallon jug of bleach out there, and I'll take a little cup, a measuring cup. And then when I get out there, I pour in the cup, and I pour the bleach down the well. Because, when you got a well, you got all kind of stuff that gets in it. There's bacteria, Lord forbid, snakes, rats, crickets, whatever. You get all those things that can get down in a well. So I pour the recommended amount. And then what do? I open up the bleach bottle and I pour more, because I get to thinking about all that stuff that could be in my great drinking water. Then I let it sit down there for, a day, and then I go into the house, and I go into the house and I turn on all the spigots to where you smell bleach starting to come out. Turn the spigots back off and let it sit overnight or for a day or so if possible, so that the well can be purified, and so that all the pipes inside my house can be cleaned up by the bleach that I put in it. Then what you have to do then is go and turn all the spigots on and run all the water out of everything until you quit smelling the bleach. Bless you. Until all the bleach smell is gone and all the bleach has gone through your pipes. And then you know that you have had the cleansing of your source of water, and you can drink freely from it from this point on. You can go back and get it whenever you want. Sometimes the wells that we have digged in our life becomes polluted with things of this world. Maybe somebody's then kicked sand in it. Maybe something has gotten into it. But our wells become polluted, clouded, toxic. All of a sudden, the drink isn't there. The blessing isn't there. And we have to go through a time of purification. You know where our purification comes from? It comes from God. We can hit our knees at an altar. We can hit our knees at home. We can lift up our hands in prayer. And we can pray. But sometimes it ain't just pour it in and go. Sometimes you go through a spell where you have to wait. You ever feel like you're in one of those spells? You ever feel like you don't even know what's going on? The first thing, let me tell you, is check out your source. Are you still connected? Come to the instruments. Are you still connected to the source? Or have you detached yourself from that well? And if you are still connected, well, how's your lines going to it? Are they clogged up? Are they clean? Are they busted? Are they broke? Are they just nasty? Are they filthy because things from the world have gotten into it? If so, you know what you got to do? You got to call out to God. Hey, God, I need the roto-rooter. Come down here and clean everything back up. I need you to one more time come down and let that water supply flow back through my life. Man, I need a touch. I need a blessing. You know? It seems like every time I get something going the right way, it's gone. It's taken from me. It's torn apart. God, can you just help me? And God tells us, well, go dig right over here. And we're thinking, man, I've digged enough. And God says, well, then don't expect the blessing. But if we go and we dig, and God cleans it, God purifies, man, that's the best feeling you ever had. You know, after a day or so, after I get my pipes all cleaned up and the well's clean, I love just to go in there and we'll just look at that water, hold it up to the light. It's always clear, but I mean, it just looks extra clear. It just tastes extra good. Maybe it's just a mind thing, you know, because I know for sure. But don't, when you know for sure you're in touch with God and you know that there's nothing hindering, you know there's no walls built up, don't it feel extra good to look at your relationship with God and know just how pure it is? If there's anything right now, anything bothering you, bugging you, your water feels cloudy, you've got things in your life, maybe your well's done full, maybe you got to dig it up. If you need anything from God this morning, you know what He's wanting us to do? Ask and dig. Ask God, God, do I just need a cleansing, God, or do I need to dig another way? But it's up to you to ask. Isaac had to leave where he was and move a little further down and restart. When we all look at Isaac, we don't think, man, what a sinner he was. He had to go start over. No. He was a good, godly man, but sometimes he had to go dig another well. Sometimes he had to go back and clean it back up. There's nothing wrong with redigging and nothing wrong with letting God clean. What there is something wrong with is when we allow Satan to steal it away to where we won't get back close to God as we should. Never let your wells get full of the things of this world. Never let your blessings be stolen, and never quit digging. Stand to your feet. Let's pray.